Welcome to Unguarded, a podcast about relationships, dating, marriage, family. We go everywhere.
All the things.
All the things.
Glad you joined us. Yeah.
Yes, I'm Bec Smith.
I'm Joe Smith, and I guess we together are the Smiths.
We're the Smiths.
And I love that we get to do this.
Me too.
We just talk about really important things, talk about things that matter to us, and that we think matter to other people too. So
Okay.
I think we got something fun today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about dating.
Dating. Come on now. It's the number one thing
It
that
really
our friends
is.
come and ask us about.
We have so many amazing friends that are single.
It's true.
And they want to find their person.
Mm-hmm.
And we want them to find their person.
Yes, we do. Yeah. Because then we don't have to coach them on their drama, and they could talk to their person about it. No, I'm kidding. But yes, we are going, hey, with something that we've discovered and that we love, and our relationship is so beautiful. Why would we not want the same
For our friends.
for people that we love? But we know it's hard,
Yes.
especially in LA.
Wow.
You know, shout out all my friends dating in LA.
I'm just so glad we didn't have to do it, really.
We did date in LA. What do you mean?
Yeah, we did, but I guess I didn't have to do the dating apps.
Sure. Because we're so old. They didn't exist.
No, they did exist, but I don't know if they were being used.
eHarmony. That's what existed when we started. Christian Mingle. Those are about the only ones, right? Now it's so many. One of our friends who's part of Mosaic created a dating app.
Yeah,
you know?
super cool.
And it's like really blown up right now, which is awesome. But yeah, so we know it's hard. It's hard out here in these streets, dating, and so I thought it'd be cool just to talk. You know, hope we get some tips, give some things we learned while dating, and
Yes.
and even things that we hear with friends and struggles that they have, or I thought let's have an open and honest conversation about the realities of dating.
Yes. Well, the first thing is last night I caught up with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Early 30s, beautiful, successful, amazing, wanting to find her boo thing.
Yes.
And she said to me, I mean, we've spoken about like, what's your type? I'm like trying to find what guy is out there. And then I felt like she landed a bit of a bomb.
She landed a bit of dropped a bomb?
Dropped a bomb.
Okay.
So,
She landed, new phrase.
I know.
You know, she landed a bit of a bomb. That's great. Did she find a man? What it sounds
I
like
wish.
she landed a bomb.
yeah, that would have been great.
She dropped a bomb.
She dropped a
Yes.
bomb.
Okay.
It's a small thing, but I think it's a big thing.
Okay.
And she said, oh, yeah, but by the way, I don't like dating in community.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what?
Sure. Yeah.
I left because it was late. I was like, we'll talk about this another time. But what? Because how are you going to find someone, especially for her where a value is faith and believing in Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
that's a value to her. So how can you find that outside of community of Mosaic, for instance?
Or
Which is
any
what she's in any community or at any
Sure.
church. But for her, she's saying in community, meaning in church.
Okay.
So then,
But I think it also applies because there'll be people listening to this that don't go to church.
yeah, that's true.
You know, that maybe it's because you can fill in the blank with church, but
Yeah,
it
that's a good
also,
point.
the power is in community. Whatever your circle is, whatever your norm, right? Could be your crew at the bar that you go to, your club that you go to, your school friends, you know what? So I think that's just important. Like it translates to every environment, not just
Yes.
church. So why do you think she's saying that? Why is she saying I don't want to date in community?
Well, that was a shock to me because there's a long list of things that, she wants. But that one, I feel like, well, now you've just cut out a large portion of your life, or the place that you could most likely find the person that would be compatible for you. You're now saying that's a no-go. And how are you going to find someone then if you cut that out? And I know I think for her, it's a risk. She's
Sure.
like, she's maybe been hurt before in dating in community. And she's like, I don't want that again. Like,
I think that May is probably a
good thing. That's not probably 100%.
100%.
I need to ask her, but I'm very sure that it
Sure.
is. And so she's trying to avoid that hurt
Yeah.
and avoid that pain. But in doing so, will she hurt her chances of actually finding the love of her life?
Yeah, possibly. But there is something to that for sure. I hear that all the time, not just your friend who said that. You know, we've counseled multiple people who've been in relationship and have been doing it in isolation, like things, you know, we found out, you know, after the fact. And then it's hard. That was why it was always hard, right? Because people would come to us, hey, can you help us in our relationship? And then we'd find out, oh, one, we didn't even know about your relationship. So we don't have any like material to come to the conversation with, right? We're starting from scratch. But I get it, because and all the times we hear it from people, and your friend was saying last night, it is in the worry of what if things don't go well?
Yes.
You know, like what do I do if it ends poorly and now I have to see that person?
Yeah.
You know, or even I just don't want people to be all up in my business. Some people are more private, which I totally understand. I'm a more private person. Even when, you know, when we were dating, there was some aspect of like, we kept it really on the down low.
Yeah. So we did what we tell people not to do.
No, that's not true.
Okay.
Not when we were public. When we were, it was early on. Don't forget, it was a whirlwind.
Yeah.
You know,
true. Went fast.
We met on a Sunday. We hung out on a Tuesday. We fell in love on a Thursday. You know, like, it was very speed racer. But yes, as we were figuring things out and just hanging out.
Yeah.
We weren't official or anything. We wanted to keep it on the down low because I was just graduated a leadership program at Mosaic. It was,
coming on staff.
I was coming on staff at the time. There was just a lot of, you were an intern.
Yeah.
Trying not to be like that taboo, summer fling. But it was hilarious enough that, remember, a good friend of mine was the first person that pegged it.
Yeah.
Because we were playing ultimate frisbee with our staff and like a bunch of key leaders, and then our interns as well. So it was a big crew. We're ultimate frisbee. It also shows how long ago this was.
Yeah.
When's the last time anybody played ultimate frisbee? But one of us scored a touchdown, and we did a high five. Remember this?
Yeah.
Oh, you go above the mic. Yeah. We did a high five, and then we did kind of that, but it was like that. It was maybe a second or two.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, Joe, shout out, Bay Area. He came up to me later that day and he said, "You and Bec are dating." I was like,
What?
What are you talking about? He said, "You guys are dating. I saw your high five." And you guys lingered for far too long. And he was the first person.
He really was.
I noticed. But yeah, we kept it kind of on the down low because I get the desire for privacy.
Yeah.
And when you're in community, especially like church community, so often people want to be in your business. People want to, and most of the time it's for the right reasons. It's because they love you, because they want to help. But sometimes it can be tough when you're just trying to figure out that other person and not have so many voices, right? So I just start there. I understand people's hesitation. But also, I can tell you, right, being here at Mosaic almost 20 years, us being married 13 years, us counseling person after person after person, it does not end well for you in your relationship when you live, when you pursue each other on an island rather than in community.
Yeah.
And so why is that? Why is it like really essential that you, even in all the difficulties and all the struggles and all the like awkwardness, why is it important to date in community?
Well, I think it's that we had friends that were older than us, wiser, and could see our relationship from the outside and could kind of just like give us little tidbits, give you little like, hey, I noticed this between you and her. Like, do you think that's wise? Or I felt like you didn't even have to say, hey, I mean, I'm probably because you trusted this person and they felt like they could speak into your life. And I think that's probably key, is that making sure you have people that feel like they can just, before you've even asked for the advice, they're giving advice like, hey, I just noticed this.
Sure.
This may not be like the best thing to do. So I felt like we had that from the get-go.
Yeah.
Once we had told people, hey, we're official, we're dating, then it was people that we trusted gave us like little advice as we went along. And that was super helpful. Like, I think it really propelled our relationship in a healthier direction quicker than if we were trying to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah.
Because I think, even I know when we were dating, if I think back on it, there was things where I was like, I'm not sure if this is the right thing, but I could also just go, oh, it's fine. Like, brush it off. Even though for me, I knew God was like, hey, I don't know if this is the best thing for you. Or I don't know if you're doing this in a good way, or, you know. So I think having that outside perspective kind of helps you go, you know what, we should shift this, or like, we're not doing this well. And I think that's super helpful to have people in your life that know what's happening in your life. And we've had countless times counseling relationships so far down the track that there's been so much hurt already that it's really hard, because now we have to, like, now there's hurt.
Yeah.
And it's so much harder. But if they came to us at the beginning, then we could have seen, oh, we know what's coming. Like, we see the unhealth that's happening here. And also it saves you from having to be isolated and feel like you have to hide it.
Sure.
And I think that's the thing. We never judge someone based on mistakes that they make. And so it's so much better, not only for you to let it go, but to get the counsel. It's just so much better to live openly with the people that you can trust in that space, knowing it's going to stay there in that room.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like it's so key to have people that you trust, that are close to you, that can speak into every arena of your life, including your dating life.
Yeah.
But it's also important to, like, have, because you're dating the person, you're the one that's pursuing them. But if you're in a healthy, friend group, if you're in like a space, a healthy community, other people's opinions also matter to you in a really powerful and healthy way. So I remember when we were early dating, we were official, right? And we were out and about. We weren't super serious yet. And I remember having a close group of friends where one Sunday night, I remember I said, because I couldn't go to church for some reason.
I remember.
And I had a close group, like some of my best friends in my wedding. I said, hey, Bec's going to be at Mosaic tonight, and I just want you to hang with her. I want you to, like, get to know her. I think she's pretty amazing. Everything's going really well. But if you see something that I don't, if I'm just caught up in the, like, honeymoon, this incredibly beautiful girl, super unique and creative from New Zealand, if I'm just like booed up and I can't see it, I'm giving you permission to speak into it.
Yeah.
And so I said, if there's something you see in her that is a hesitation, a red flag, I want you to hang out with her. I want you to get to know her and then kind of report back to me, because I don't just want to move forward with like blinders on. And I was super open with that, and it was real. It wasn't like because sometimes you'll tell friends that, hey, I want you to get to know her, get to know him. And then if there's red flags, tell me. But then your friends tell you the red flags, but you're like, no, but you don't know him. That red flag, you just got to put a little bit of dye on it. There's green dye, like he could be changed, and you don't really mean it. I actually meant it because I didn't want to be a fool.
Yeah.
And because I also had early on, I remember reading the scriptures talking about the power of having wise counsel and other voices, so that you're not the only person speaking to a moment. And so it was so cool to have them all come back, like one by one separately, and go, dude, you're an idiot if you don't like lock this up. She's incredible. Like, she's even better than you said. And it was amazing for me to go, okay, I thought I had a good gauge, but they're insight and their opinion, right? And their perspective even enhanced the incredible things that I already saw in you. You know, but you got to be willing to have both sides, you know? And I think a lot of times the reason people don't want to date in community or date in isolation, I think probably more often than not, is because they don't want people to actually speak into the red flags.
Wow.
That they already know it and they sense it and they're trying to ignore it. Because, yeah, you want to be married or you want to be in a relationship or even just straight up, you want to have sex, you know? And, you know, it's crazy when you want to hear the things you want to hear, you will resource the people that will say those very things.
Yeah.
But if you want to hear the things that your soul needs to hear, that's the decision you have to make far ahead of time to surround yourself with the right people.
That's why you go to friends that you know won't care.
For sure.
Whether he's a good person or not.
Yes. Because their spouse is probably not a great person.
Yeah.
You know, or their girlfriend is a little sus. And so they're not going to judge you because they're going to look at their own relationship, you know, and yes, you resource the wrong people.
Yeah. So the question is with all our friends out there trying to date, like, I don't know, what advice do you give them to say, go on the apps, don't go on the apps, go, like, I mean, I was even telling a friend, like, yeah, join a club, or like, if you like tennis, go play tennis, like, you know, like, put yourself out there so that you can hopefully organically meet someone, because I think that's probably the best. Although, how many people these days meet through Instagram? Like,
for sure, Instagram is probably the number one dating app in the world right now.
Our friends got married, and she messaged him on, DM'd him, and now they're married. Yeah,
sure. That's what.
I love that she went for it.
Absolutely, but it's also part of who she is. You know, she's like a boss, and you know. But yes, I always say one of the things that we would advise or counsel. I echo so much of that. If you want to be married, if you want to, or not even that extreme, right? If you want to date, because there's nothing wrong with that. You're like, I want to go on dates and I want to meet people. I don't want to like just go home and watch Netflix by myself, right? Then you gotta put yourself in the right environments, right? You gotta put yourself around people. You've got to open up your life and go, okay, I don't want to be hidden. And you know, it's like if you like, I want to be in a relationship, but then you don't actually meet other people. Who's the relationship with?
Yeah.
You know, you and yourself, you and God. Like, God loves you, but He's okay with the third party.
Yeah.
You know, He wants you to open up your world. So, like dating apps, yes or no? Yes and no.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you got to know yourself, right? I would say no if you're just chasing attention. If you're just like, you just want the affirmation of a guy to, you know, to fancy you. Or if you're, you know, a guy, you just want the thrill of the chase. If it's a shallow reason, or even knowing yourself of like, man, I can get caught up really easy, or I become a different person on the apps. Like the projection of who I am is a facade, then maybe I'll go, okay, it's maybe not a great idea for you right now. But for a lot of people, a lot of my friends, I'll say yes. Like, it's just the reality of our world. It's the currency of relationships nowadays, is so many of them begin on social media, and they begin on apps, and it's a way just to like expand the pool. And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, there's an importance and a relevance to it. So maybe, for some of you listening, like, you've been hesitant to go on an app, or like, I want to find my husband, my wife organically. That's a great ideal, but it's okay to have some other potential opportunities as well. You know, and so whether it's a dating app, whether it's, you know, finding a environment that you love and a club to join, or, you know, integrating yourself into a community like church, and, you know, whatever your value system is. And then I think the other thing too is, you not only do you have to make yourself available physically, but you also have to make yourself available emotionally. you've got to, in your body language,
You got to
in the way
take
you
risks.
talk, you've got to take, yeah. So, because I have a lot of friends who say they're open to dating,
Yeah.
but then I witness them on Sundays at Mosaic, or I
Yeah.
witness them in social environments. I'm like, you don't realize how closed off you are.
Yeah, that's true.
That even if he was interested, you have said, do not approach me, and sometimes some of those things you just have to like, you got to learn and develop some skills. Flirting is a skill set.
Like eye contact.
Yes. Revolutionary, dating tool.
I mean, I don't know, were you good at flirting?
Absolutely not. Or you acting like that was an actual question. That was
I mean, I know you said that you weren't, but like, I don't know before me. Did you ever, I guess you were in a relationship too before then.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Did you ever flirt? I guess
Did I flirt? No. Did I have game? No. I wasn't even on the bench. If we're using the sports terms, I was the water boy. I was getting water for everyone in the game. Did I know how to flirt? No. But also because for me, it was a lot of social anxiety. People made me nervous. Girls made me nervous. And I was terrible at flirting.
Luckily, I'm a pro flirter.
You're a pro flirter. That's really where that question was just to bring a full circle to allow you to brag on your flirting skills. So why don't you tell us?
No.
Educate us, Miss Rebecca Smith, on how do you flirt? How do you flirt well?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. It's been years.
We still don't flirt?
I mean, I flirt with you.
Okay.
That's true.
Yes.
I do. Yeah, I think eye contact is huge.
Yeah?
Because I think you can say a lot of things through the eyes.
What are you saying with your eyes right now?
That you're cute.
Hey.
And then it's like approaching the person.
Yeah.
And just, I think sometimes that takes a lot of courage to go up to someone. But it doesn't have to be like the whole thing all at one time. It's like eye contact, go up to them, say hi, or like stand next to them. Then if there's something in common, you make a comment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, this coffee's taking forever, right? Like, oh, this is great coffee, right? Like anything to spark up the conversation.
Sure.
And I think that's also like the way you create friends too.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess I've become a pro at that because I like meeting people, but it is a bit of a challenge to be like, I could stand in here in a coffee line, and say nothing, or I could talk to the person beside me and there could be something, a friendship could arise from it.
For sure.
And I think maybe that's what you're talking about, being a body language, having an openness to whatever could happen. Like your life could change. And one of the things I do remember before meeting you, that I had this like sense of anything's possible. And I was so excited for whatever those possibilities could be. I felt very hopeful and like, I'm just going to have fun.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, a key thing, like not being bogged down by the idea of having to find your husband and feeling like time is passing you by,
Yep.
but being excited by the possibility of what today could bring.
For sure.
That today you could meet someone really incredible that could change your life forever. And
even just to take the pressure off a little bit.
Yeah.
To go like, it's okay just to have fun with people.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
And things develop over time, and feelings, right? Everybody wants like the love at first sight. Everybody wants the like rom-com love, but most of the time it isn't rom-com love. It's marathon love.
Yeah.
It's in the subtle moments, right? It's in the bowling with friends, right? Because sometimes somebody doesn't catch your eye until that they do something that catches your eye.
Yeah, that's good. That's
true.
True.
Of like, oh, the way that like he bowled that bowl and then he like gave a high five.
Yeah.
It's like, there's something in that, right? And it's okay to let things slowly develop. Sometimes it's a firework, and sometimes it's an explosion immediately, or there's crazy chemistry right away. But that's not everyone's story.
Yeah.
But you do just have to make sure you're putting yourself again in environments just to like crash into people, and to have those moments that you catch, or a person, the way they talk, or the way I remember those moments when we were dating. You know, it wasn't, you were beautiful without question, and we met. It was a physical attraction, but it wasn't like I looked at you and the heavens opened up and God said, there's your wife, right? No, there was an interest. But in the same way I was interested in you physically when I first saw you, even more so I was interested in you, you know, conversationally. And we would talk about things, about life and things that you loved and I loved. And everything I learned about you, it was like a layer. It was an onion. I just got to wrap layer after layer after layer. And my curiosity increased. But it was in the subtle moments. It was in the random things, right? And when you allow it to develop over time, because I think a lot of times that's why relationships don't last, especially if you have a heavy, heavy spark, because that's a firework. When you like see somebody and they're like the most beautiful person you've ever seen and you're just obsessed with all that, that's a firework. But the issue with the firework is it lasts like for seconds.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be a firework. You want to be a fireplace that you just are always feeding the logs. That over time it develops, but it's sustainable because it's a fire that lasts longer than just a moment.
Yeah. I think also going back to like taking risks, because I feel fortunate that I had a bit of a girl that was like a wing person for me. Yeah. And I remember she was going to drop me off after church, like after the night gathering. And she was like, oh, you should ask him. And I was like, great idea. Like it may not have occurred to me to ask you since I already had a ride, but it was like, I'm intentionally placing myself in your space, hoping that you're going to notice or hoping that there's going to be something more like chemistry happening. Like, so I said to you, hey, like, do you mind dropping me off later? And you're like, yeah, sure. I've got other people to drop off and then I'll drop you off. And I was like, okay. And of course, intentionally, you dropped everyone else off before me. Thank 100%. You.
Because your boy may not have had a lot of game, but we had a little bit. And I was strategic.
I'm so glad you do. And that you did have that. So I think you could have said no.
Sure.
And I think that's probably the scary part is like putting yourself out there knowing that someone could say, oh, actually, I can't. And it's going to be tough.
For sure. I think a lot of people's issues, they're afraid of rejection.
Yeah.
They hate the rejection, right? Because you're even saying that you could have said no. You know, the hilarious thing is you did say no the first time I asked you
that's true.
to hang out. First, right? Because you got to have some resiliency, fellas, right? No doesn't mean no forever. No could mean no in a moment. And
because I was playing hard to get.
Yeah, sure. And because girls love games.
I'm sorry.
Right? And
it's true, though.
But yeah, I asked you to hang out after the first day we met. And I said, hey, let's go grab lunch. And, and you said no.
Yeah.
And it was, again, so shocking because I did not have great dating history, did not know how to flirt. And I thought we had chemistry. I thought we were like vibing. So then when I asked you to hang out and you said no, it could have easily been like the last conversation we had. Because it could have been like, well, I completely misread that.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, she's not interested. Or you say no to me? You declined me? Nah, girl, you don't realize what you just missed. All right? Our pride could like just all of a sudden explode and then you miss out on what could have been simply because somebody hurt your ego.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are terrified of the rejection or wounded by the rejection. And in dating, you're just never going to make it. In relationships, you're never going to make it if you don't develop a powerful sense of resiliency.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you're going to need it through the entire relationship, not just,
in the
dating, right? You're going to feel rejected by the other person, for X, Y, and Z reasons. You're going to feel that you're not on the same page. You're going to want to do one thing and have to shift and make a sacrifice because of the other person. And resiliency and sacrifice, I feel like, are a lot of the baselines for a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
Because you're not focused on just the emotion of that moment. And so I would say for sure, for people who are listening to this, are like, I want to I want to date and I want to like be open to finding my person, or like all the things you're saying. Yes, yes, yes. What do I do? I think one of the first things I would say is buckle up and be okay with a no.
Yeah.
Just put yourself and also put yourself in environments to be rejected, to feel the weight of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's interesting because I went to you first. So I took the huge leap, and I was talking to I met these like 3 new friends on Sunday. And I kind of shared our story of how I came up to you and just said, hey, I'm Bec, introduced myself. We started chatting, and they were like, oh yeah, I guess I could like be more bold and go up to people. And I'm like, yes, like everyone feels like they're all just wanting to do it.
Sure.
But they're just not crossing that line. So then no one does it.
Yep.
So I guess in some ways, at least I took the leap to cross that line. And suddenly from that moment on, when I introduced myself, we weren't strangers anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was cool. Yes, I did say no. I don't know why I said no. That was, I think, immature of me, to be honest.
Sure.
But I'm so grateful that you didn't take that no as a no to you. I was just saying no for lunch. I wasn't saying no, I'm not interested. And
but that's an interesting thing to highlight, though, even helping guys and girls.
Yeah.
Because for you, and I think on both sides it can be true, but, I'm just saying no to lunch, but what the person hears is you're saying no to me.
Yeah.
And they are intertwined, so you even I think it's helpful to people to see that and to know that, right? And to go, if you aren't interested, then the no is easy. But if you are interested, then maybe the yes should be easy as well.
Yeah. So I could have said, maybe later.
Sure. That's one option.
I guess I really was playing hard to get right there. So I'm just so grateful you gave it one more shot. I don't know if you would have given multiple, but you gave one more shot and you text me and you said, hey, let's go to a poetry lounge with a group of friends.
Yep.
And I remember receiving that text and my heart literally leaping out of my chest, and I couldn't type fast enough, like, yes.
Sure. And I had to get your number from somebody else because you had to.
No, that time you had my number, but then I don't know, a week later I changed my number. Then you had to get my number from someone else.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. But just be open.
Yeah.
Open.
Yeah,
like
that's
that,
so.
will put you in the right position.
What do you've got to lose?
For sure.
Like I had nothing to lose, but everything to gain.
Yeah.
With you.
And with guys, I'm gonna go do a PSA. I'm on a campaign.
Yes.
No more coffee dates. No more coffee dates.
That.
People drink enough coffee in LA. LA is a coffee city. It's a cafe city. Drink your coffee with your boys, with your coworkers, right? But if you're trying to ask a girl out, ask her out.
Yes.
Take her to dinner, right? Find out, what she like. Do the hard work ahead of time, right? Because that's the other thing. It's not just, oh, cool, let's go on a date, but your intention will communicate so much, right? If she's a vegan, don't go to a steakhouse, right? If she hates like loud rooms, don't go to the most poppin' spot. I
was gonna say though, like, be intentional with the date, but I think at least ask her. Like, I don't even know if people really are asking people. I think girls are waiting for the guys to make that step.
People like just
asking people out. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
That's
That's what we're saying.
I know, but I'm like, you're saying that no coffee, but at least ask them first. Like, ask them to hang out. Like, make that step, because I think girls are like waiting, like, hey, like, do you think I'm cute? Because if you do, then ask me.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying that, like, yes, and I love what you were saying. Be intentional about where you take them. But first is at least the ask, I think, is
that is step
lacking
one.
here.
Yeah. You can't go on a date if you don't first ask.
Yeah.
But then in that also, because we're not just talking about how to get a date, right? We're talking about like how to date well.
Yeah.
We're talking about like aspects of dating, and even intention communicates everything. Like take the time. I remember our first date, right? I try to be very intentional with it. You mentioned how you love fresh vegetables and you cafe culture, and And back then, so long ago, there wasn't a ton of cafes in LA.
No.
And there was one particular cafe that we never go to anymore, but it was at the time was a really popular like brunch spot and had healthy food and fresh ingredients. And it had outdoor ambiance. And
Yes.
you talked about how much you love nature from New Zealand. So I was like, okay, let me pick an outdoor spot that has fresh ingredients. So we went to that restaurant. And then later on in the night, as like a little surprise, I took you because you mentioned your favorite ice cream was this ice cream called Hokey Pokey.
Yeah.
And it had these like little bits of butterscotch in it. And so I just Googled, is there any ice cream restaurants in or around LA that serves this butterscotch, ice cream flavor? And I find this, of course, and again, it was just a little window. It doesn't even exist anymore. It was, I think, only open for a few months, called New Zealand Natural Ice Cream.
Yeah.
And they, lo and behold, they have this Hokey Pokey ice cream, bits of butterscotch. And we're just walking downtown. I was like, oh, what is this? And then you're like, oh my goodness. And we walk in and right, I had interest in you and curiosity in you, but it wasn't just matched by the way that I treated you. It was also matched in the way that I prepared for you.
Yeah.
Because that was letting you know I was listening. I was listening when
It's
you
so
talked
funny
about
because I
these
didn't
things.
know that you had put so much intention in it. Like, I think I felt valued, but I had never thought that you had taken note of all those things.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Because you listen and you remember and you store away the things that matter to you.
Yeah.
Right? Data is just data until it has a person behind it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about dating, right? Is you want to woo a girl, right? You want to like blow her socks off. You want to show her that, oh wow, this guy's different. Listen to her.
Mm-hmm.
Log what she says, what she matters, and then make sacrifices. I can't tell you how many times you're dating. You know how many movies I watched that I had zero interest in? How many rom-coms that I've seen? How many terrible movies? And I had, terrible movies for me. I'm not saying that it was for you, but I had no desire to watch that film.
Yeah.
But I had all desire for you to know that you matter more to me than I do. And so I'm going to sacrifice. And I think a lot of times we figure out how to orient the person to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, no, I'm going to find joy in the things that bring you joy. Like that could be just a real practical thing in dating is, spending time doing things that don't just bring you joy, but things that bring the other person joy. And then watch how that just develops the beauty of your relationship over time.
Yeah, that's a good point. I felt like you definitely tried different things. Like we went to a restaurant. You didn't like spending a lot of money on like going to restaurants. I guess we didn't really have any money.
We did, yeah. I would have loved spending money on nice restaurants. We didn't have money to spend on nice restaurants.
You had just finished at Starbucks, but we went to this restaurant and we had like, you got me a glass of wine and you tried it too for the first time. You tried scallops, I think, for the first time.
No, I had scallops before,
but you were like, oh, this is really good. There's things that you push yourself to do more because you knew that food meant so much to me coming from Australia and New Zealand.
Yep.
And then the other thing I think we could jump into if we have time is like the physical thing when it comes to dating.
The physical thing. Oh, she said, let's go there. Talk about what physical thing?
Like, I mean,
You're talking about sex.
Sex, but all the other things that lead up to sex too.
Sure. Yeah. Good point.
So I had never really had a relationship, or I hadn't had a relationship with someone who believed in Jesus and had the same like faith value for that. So it was a very new thing for me. I knew I wanted it, but I didn't know like all the boundaries that would have to come into it.
Sure. All the hard choices.
All the hard choices beforehand, So I do remember like I hated where I lived at the time. I lived by myself. It was pretty lonely. And then I always loved being at your house because you lived in a house full of like 7 guys.
7 dudes. We called it the mansion. This was a brand new house in Silver Lake, and 7 dudes just broing out.
Having the time of your lives. And I remember just wanting to hang out there. And then I was like, I just want to go home. Can I sleep on the couch?
Yeah.
And then...
and you did.
Yeah, a couple of times.
But I think a bunch of times, but yeah.
Yeah, and then we had that conversation.
We did.
In the car, and you were like, hey, I don't think this is wise for you to stay the night anymore. Like, this is not like a good or a healthy place to be. And it says something when we go to we don't, it's not even that we were tempted at all because there were so many people in that house, but we felt like we're crossing that line and that wasn't the best.
Yep.
For our relationship.
Yeah.
I remember being heartbroken, but at the same time, the moment you saying it, I remember feeling really sad, but I remember God saying, like, you know, this is the wise thing to do. And I don't think I had been in a relationship with anyone who would withhold something that was convenient for the sake of the betterment of our relationship.
Sure, yeah.
And crazy enough, after making that choice, even though it was hard to like drive home late at night and leave, I hated leaving, we got better. Our relationship got better. It felt like you loved me more. And that was the thing that really sent me on a trip because in all my experience with relationships, I'm like, the more time you spend with someone, the more they like you. Or the more intimacy you have, the more like closeness you have. But withholding from staying the night at your house actually meant you loved me more. And that was a whole new thing for me.
Yeah. And that was an aspect too of one, full circle, right? We were talking about earlier about dating and community.
Yeah.
Because that was birthed from that decision to like, hey, no more, even though you're sleeping on the couch, even though we're not having sex, even though we're not like pushing boundaries and that stuff. I had a conversation with a friend who spoke into that and said, hey, just wasn't even, is this right or wrong? Is this a sin or is it not? The question that got me and shifted my mindset was when they said, is this the wisest choice? And I wanted to live my life not just on a line of good or bad, right or wrong. I wanted to live my life in a space of wise and unwise. And I wanted it in every aspect of my life. And I wanted to be replicated in dating. And yes, and we had made choices in that arena that was just rooted in convenience. And I just didn't want us to have a baseline of convenience. I wanted us to have a baseline of character.
Yep.
And that we're going to go above and beyond. And I think that's actually really key when it comes to dating.
Yeah. Right?
Is also to go live in the lane that you're in. And when you're dating, date. When you're engaged, be engaged. When you're married, be married. But I think a lot of times people shift lanes and that you're in a dating relationship, but you're acting like you're engaged. Or you're in an engaged relationship, but you're acting like you're married. And there's an unhealth to that because if you're not willing to commit to the higher standard, you shouldn't be willing to reap the benefits of living to a lower standard.
Yeah.
And that's for us. I remember we would have those conversations going, yeah, like I'm not going to go there with you in that space because that's something that my wife deserves and that's something your husband deserves. And until I'm willing to put a ring on it, I have not gained access into that space.
Yeah, because I remember when we got married, I was like, oh my gosh, you love me I thought you loved me the most that you could have loved me when we were dating and engaged. And in the moment we got married, it was like a whole different you opened up. And I was like, what? This was here all along? I didn't even know. And you loved me in ways that I didn't even know was possible. And I said to you, I was like, how is that there's a whole different like level of love? And you said, that's because when I dated you, and I never treated you like my fiance or my wife, because then I would be taking the place of your husband, and that was not for me to take.
Sure, yeah.
And that blew my mind because I was like, I think we're in a culture where if we want it, we take it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we think we're doing something because the other person wants it. So we're just obliging to their wants, but actually we're taking something from that person that's meant to be for somebody else.
Yeah. And 100%. It's so good. And it's because we had a shared intention. We had a shared commitment. And that's the reality, right? Because if that's not a value system for you, then do as you will.
Yeah.
There's no judgment, there's no condemnation. There, even when we're talking about in a faith, perspective, like God does not impose his standards on people who do not have a relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're not interested in Jesus, if you're not close to Jesus, then don't hold someone to the standard of the principles of Jesus, right? But if you are, if this matters to you, and that for us it was, that we said, hey, we want Jesus to be the center of our relationship, and that's going to be the backbone of who we are. So then that became the filter for the choices that we did and did not make. And that's why we could, on our wedding night, we could be with each other and go, oh, see, this is the reason that we didn't have sex before we were married, is because we wanted the other person to know that not only did our relationship together matter, but our relationship together in Jesus mattered. And that we wanted to honor not just one another, but we wanted to honor him with our lives and with our relationships. And we could proudly, on our wedding night, go, man, Jesus, thank you so much for the gift of this marriage that we really sacrificed for, and that we believe you're going to bless because of that sacrifice, and it was a choice that we made in our marriage, that the only reason, I'm telling you, the reason we're going here is the only reason we were able to like abstain in those hard moments and not, give in and like be sexually active together. The reason was because we cared more about Jesus than we did about ourselves.
Yeah. And
that was the fuel for it. And then we said, we want to be proof that this is possible. And I remember having a reshaping in my mind around why. And this is the conversations I have with all my guys all the time. They're like, how do you do it? Or why? Tell me what Bible verse, tell me what Bible verse says, you should or shouldn't have sex before you're married on stuff. I'm like, it's not just about the verse. It's not just about like having a fact of, or proof that God said this, and then all of a sudden now this is why it matters. It's an ethic. It's an ethos. It's a perspective shift. And I remember what shifted for me was just feeling, when I read the scriptures and I hear the voice of God, I kept hearing him say over and over and over and over again, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
That's good.
And that for me was the freeing thing. Okay, I'm not choosing to abstain or withhold just because the Bible says so. That's so limited thinking. But I go, why did the scriptures talk about this? What's the why? What's the goal? What's the intention behind it? And there's something beautiful about when we don't let the easy yes rule our decisions. And I wanted you to know you're worth the hard no. And then when you commit to the hard no, it's crazy how many incredible yeses are waiting for you. And so, yeah, it's extremely difficult, but it's worth it every single time when you choose the value and character, because that, again, was the epicenter of our relationship. It wasn't just that we believed in Jesus, but it's that we were deep followers of Jesus. And I think that's maybe a encouragement to people who are people of faith. And like, I want to meet a husband and I want to be married to a woman who can help me create a beautiful life. Then you got to look not just for somebody who believes in Jesus, because that's baseline. But are you actually going to orient your life and be attracted to somebody who's committed to Jesus? Because it's a lot harder to follow Jesus than it is to just believe in him.
That's true. Because you can say that you believe in him, but then you don't live it out naturally.
Sure.
Or you don't live it out in your life. And I felt like there were hard times.
There were?
And what I really loved, which was again a new thing for me, was that every time we felt like we were about to cross a line, we were like, okay, let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Which normally it's like, just go wherever you want to go physically. But actually we would stop and say, okay, this is a boundary that we're not going to cross.
Yeah.
And I do remember, this is funny, we said to ourselves, let's not kiss for a little while. And we could not. That was like, what a dumb, stupid thing. I don't know why we
I vaguely remember that. We lasted a few days, maybe. Yeah.
We're like, what were we trying to accomplish? Of course we were going to make out. And that was fun. So I love that we had that. And then I loved that we had people, again, back to people, that we could share like, hey, this is really tough. Or I could share like, oh, this is so hard to like withhold. And people that are ahead of us that were like, yeah, I know. And it's okay. But it's going to be worth it. Like reminding us of what was coming and what a gift it was to wait. The love was way deep. Our relationship was deeper and different and more beautiful because we waited. Like you said, like when you take those hard no's, there are so many beautiful yeses on the other side of it, and it was well worth it.
Yep. And even because you want to see that everything's connected. And I remember where it shifted, right? Because we weren't perfect. Not even trying to act like we were perfect at all, right? We would say no more kissing, and then we would kiss, or no making it, whatever, you know. But the moment it shifted, the moment it locked in my brain, I remember.
Yeah.
And the conversation that we were having, because we said, okay, hey, these are lines that we're not going to cross. These are things that we're not going to do, right? And we were very specific, right? We're not going to do X, Y, and Z, right? Because the thing, we didn't just want to be like, oh, we're not going to have sex, but we wanted what is the wisest choice that we can make in our relationship. And I remember what shifted, if you remember too, we had this conversation and go, hey, these are the boundaries we're setting. And these are the commitments we're making to each other. So that if we break this commitment, if we go too far, if we cross a line, it's not just about the line, it's about the ethic. It's about the trust. And I had to like shift it in my brain to go, that's why this matters. Because if she can't trust me at my word in this moment, how in the world is she going to trust me 20 years from now?
Wow.
When the stakes are even higher.
Wow.
When I've got to make really difficult choices, when I've got to make really huge sacrifices, when my character, my intention has to be elevated to the nth degree. Yeah. That if she can't trust me now, she's not going to be able to trust me then. Wow. And I think that's the part that a lot of guys, specifically, I'm going to talk to my guys, don't fully realize that when you because if you don't make the commitment, if you don't, establish a framework and a boundary, then it's a different conversation. But when you do, and then when you break it, it's not just that you went too far, it's that you've proven yourself to be less trustworthy. And I want to help you become the best version of yourself. I want to help you prove that there's goodness in you, that there's power in you. And that's why as a man, I think we have not fully tapped into the power of our self-control. Wow. Because if you can master this area of your life, you will master the areas of your life that your family needs you to. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now.
Dang. That's good.
That's it. I'm out. Tapped out. I'm done. I retire.
So good luck to everyone that's dating out there.
Right? We believe in you, though.
We do.
We do.
And I hope this year there's like a lot of love. Because we love love.
We do.
But it's funny how you have to risk to get the reward of love. And you have to put yourself out there. And we were talking to David, who's helping us put this together, and he was like, that you risk in community. That's the lower risk, because really the bigger risk is actually love. But you'll never get to love if you're not willing to risk in community.
Yes. So good.
So
don't focus on the fear of that lower risk.
Yes.
And then miss out
on the big thing. And it may not even that you may take a risk with someone and they're not the person that you're going to fall in love with.
Sure.
But because you're willing to take a risk on someone, then you are more open to what could be happening, the next thing, which could be love and could be the person of your dreams, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like this is the safest place to take risks, go for it, have fun, flirt, be yourself, find yourself. And then you just never know who you're going to meet.
It's true. So get out there. Come on now. Jump in the pool, and we can't wait. Tag us.
Yes,
you know,
tell us.
when you put yourself out there and you're dating well and you're like, oh my goodness, I took that risk and I put myself in that environment, or I asked her out and she said yeah. Like, let us know. Like, celebrate. We want to celebrate with you.
That's true.
Because we do believe in the power of love, and great marriages begin with great dating relationships.
It's true.
And so
we
hope you date very well and you have a lot of fun with it. And we're cheering you on along the way.
Yes. So thank you for listening. We hope this was helpful to you, and we love doing this with you. Follow us on YouTube, on hopefully Spotify, and then share this episode with people who you know need to take that risk. And we can't wait to hear the stories.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.